Welcome to the podcast where mental health is at the core of what we focus on. We strive to develop people like you to maximize who you are and what you've been called to do by sharing tools and resources for better brain health. And now here's your host, Juan Garcia.
Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode here on your mental health podcast, Mind Yours, where we focus on mental health and peak performance. We've been talking about the topic codependency, and there are many ways you can find out if you are codependent or not. And at the end of this series, I will formulate a list of questions that you can ask yourself, and depending on those answers, you will know whether you are codependent or not. And sometimes you'll even figure out how really codependent we can be. So this is all research-based, as well as my personal experience being a recovering codependent myself. And if you are joining us for the first time, we do have a couple of videos that we did and episodes for this topic. We started with identifying what is codependency, and then our last episode we talked about some of the root causes. So first we did symptoms and signs, and then the second video and episode was root causes. Today's episode we are going to focus on identifying how we can recover from being codependent. How do we get back to a place where we're healthy emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually as it relates to our codependency? Because when we are codependent, it's usually a lifelong, extensive period of time that we've lived this way, and this is all we know. And so now we can identify it and now put in place those things that we need to do in order to recover who we truly are and not rely on our codependency. Now, some of us are codependent upon relationships. Others are codependent upon specific things, addictions. And when we talk about addictions, I know a lot of people, they can go to a place where it may be really, really dark in terms of alcohol, drugs, porn, and things of that nature. And although obviously those are part of what we discuss in terms of codependency, but there are other types of addictions like eating, the need to be needed, to be recognized and to be noticed, a savior mentality. These are all different types of addictions that we can have when we are codependent. So bear in mind that these that I'm gonna share with you are 5 things that I have come up with as far as my research and my reading in order to help us recover from codependency and stay codependency free. Now, here is step number 1. First thing that we have to do to recover and to stay codependent free is get in touch with yourself. Get in touch with yourself. You got to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. Part of what codependency does, it creates this imaginary sense of, I can't do this unless I have or do this. And because of that mindset, we get lost in who we truly are. And we don't really know who we are. And as we recover and we identify our codependency, we see the signs, the symptoms, and then we look at the root causes. Now we have to go on this journey of understanding who we truly are, because we've been this person, or we've been holding on to these things that have been connected to our codependency, and we get lost in that. Our identity gets hijacked, and we respond and we react to things based on our codependency. So now that we're not codependent anymore, we need to know who we are. And we live this life trying to, be and do. And it's all based out of the necessity of someone else or this other thing that we've been codependent on. So we need to learn how to stand on our 2 feet. And obviously, you will need some help in this, and we can support you and help you in this process. If you have identified your codependency and you want to move forward with taking these steps, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We can set up sessions, we can sit down, we can discuss different ways. I have a workbook you can work through. I have tools, so many things that we can talk about. So please don't try to do this on your own. You have the support that you need. Just reach out to us. Okay. So number 2, the second thing that we should be doing to stay codependent free, we need to prioritize self-care. I mean, we need to show ourselves the full care that we deserve, mind, body, and soul. Codependency, for the most part, and many people fall under the category when we're constantly serving others, we're constantly meeting the needs of others. We strive on making others feel good about themselves because that makes us feel good. Because remember, part of codependency is being needed, right? Is that sense of being needed. And not only do we get lost in that, but we prioritize others first. We prioritize their feelings, their emotions, their actions, their ideas, and it's all about others. And then what about us, right? There's a saying that we repeat when it comes to taking care of ourselves as it relates to the airlines. They use their safety guidelines and they start talking about, hey, before you put the mask on someone else, make sure you put the mask on yourself, right? In other words, take care of yourself. In the medical field, we use something similar, and it's when we get dispatched to trauma, to critical care needs at hospitals, ICUs, and very serious matters. It says before you check someone else's pulse, make sure you check your own pulse. You got to take care of yourself. We cannot continue to think that we can help everyone else when we put ourselves in the back burner and don't take care of our own needs. So make sure that you prioritize yourself. Whatever that looks like, maybe you need some help identifying what that looks like. Again, reach out, because sometimes, because we're so lost in who we are and we don't even know our own identity at sometimes, we need help in figuring out what does it look like for us to have that self-care, that soul care, and that rhythm of life, which is what I like to call it, so that we're taking care of ourselves. And depending on your temperament, your needs are different. So just because someone else does something every week or every month and it works for them doesn't mean it's going to necessarily work for you. And so these are things that we should be considering when we prioritize ourselves. Now let's go to number 3. Number 3 is build boundaries. This is huge. When we are codependent, we have either very little or no boundaries at all. People come in and go into our lives, into our emotional space, into our mental and spiritual space without any regard of our own, limitations, because we don't put them out there. And so how do people have the license to come into our space, in and out, ongoing, whenever they want, unless we give it to them, right? And so part of recovering from codependency and staying codependent free is to establish and build boundaries. And the boundaries have to be clear, they have to be concise, and they have to be realistic. Obviously, we're not going to build boundaries where we're tearing relationships apart. That's not the point of boundaries. However, keep in mind, as I tell everyone that I come in contact with that is codependent, you and I are only responsible for what you do, what I do, what you say, what I say, right? We can only control what we can control. How other people respond to your boundaries, how other people react and say and do, when you share your boundaries with them, we have no control over that. That's not our responsibility. So we want to make sure that as we establish our boundaries, that we're not being manipulated or controlled into establishing boundaries that are beneficial to others. Because boundaries are all about us saying, these lines are established because of my core values. And my core values indicate a protection of self, so that I'm not burned out, so that I'm not misused or abused. And so please respect this. And if you cannot respect that, then we cannot establish a healthy relationship. So make sure that you build boundaries. And if you need help, reach out and let us know. Okay, here's step number 4 to maintain our codependency-free self. Communicate confidently. Part of what happens with codependency is that we do not want to be honest about our feelings because we are afraid that we are going to offend. We are afraid, what if they react and say this? What if they reject me? What if they don't want a relationship with me anymore? What if this puts in jeopardy certain things that I had expected? What if? And we're constantly communicating or not communicating because of these what ifs. That is not healthy. We need to communicate confidently. And obviously, there's a process to doing that. I share in my practice, I share 4 T's of communication. And one of those T's, because I'm not going to give you the 4, one of the T's is tone. Tone. You can communicate confidently how you feel and express your processing of whatever it is, the dynamic that you're dealing with using the proper tone, using grace and love. And when you're in a relationship with someone that you care about, they're going to respect that. And they're going to be able to acknowledge that your communication is coming from a good place, even if it's in disagreement. Now, if they choose to come at you, as we say, or they don't like what you say, or they even change the dynamics of the relationship, that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to communicate with confidence how you feel and express it in love and in grace. And what others do with that is not your responsibility. All right? So here we go. Here's step number 5 as we conclude these steps towards staying codependency free. And that is get intimate. Yes. Basically, what codependency does, as I've said, other than limiting our deep connections and kind of getting lost in our identity, is that we don't establish intimacy in deep relationships that we actually need in our lives because we're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of what ifs, as we said before. So get intimate is all about making healthy, joyful connections with others. That means that because you're no longer codependent, you're not worried about what people think. You're not worried about what people have to say. You're not worried about how people react. So you're comfortable in your own skin and you have a willingness to be vulnerable. So if you're in a relationship with a friend or someone or a partner, your spouse, etc., and you're feeling down because you failed, you had a goal that you missed, or if you're a Christian, a Christ follower, you sinned, you committed sin and you feel bad, and you want to confess it, or you want to come clean, or you understand the biblical principle of iron sharpening iron, so you want to be held accountable. Well, when you get intimate, you are intentional about your vulnerability and say, I messed up, I fell, or I had this goal that I set and I failed, I came up short, and I'm feeling bad. And so in that intimate and deep connection that you create, you will find solace, you will find peace, you will find ultimate recovery, and you will find the support that you actually need in order to be encouraged to move forward and be motivated to not only accomplish your goal, but crush them and stay true to yourself. So these are important steps that we need to acknowledge and kind of have in mind as it relates to becoming codependency free and staying codependency free. So I hope this is helpful to you. If you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, and you want to reach out, please reach out to us. All of the information needed will be in the description box. So please do not try this alone. Reach out, let us support you, let us help you out in the journey that has to do with your freedom of codependency. So until the next episode, be well, mind yours. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for tuning into our podcast. For more information, visit our website at juangarciaenterprises.com. Our host, Juan Garcia, is available for speaking, coaching, and one-on-one counseling. You can email us at info@juangarciaenterprises.com. Until next time, remember, we only have one mind, so mind yours.